Now we're going to start on the final layer, and I've turned my painting upside down, and we're going to do the furthest away, least important ones first, and they also need the least amount of detail. So I'm going to look at what I've got here and think about whether it's enough colour. And I think I'll just add a little bit more because I've got a lovely blush. Oh, actually, no, I'll start up here where this petal ends. And I think I've probably got just about enough, but I'm going to add a little splash. I've got some various colours mixed up here, Potter's Pink and Quinacridone Red, and a little bit of Permanent Rose, so it's a rosy colour. And this is more of a tanny colour, and this is more pink again. And then I've got my Indanthrene Blue and a few bits of shadow colours in between. So I'm just going to do a little swipe up here. It's not actually on the picture, but I think it would work well to just use this to define the edge of that petal disappearing. It's just a little bit of colour and soften the edge. So what I've done to do that is wet my number 20 or 8. This is my 18, I think. Could be a bigger brush, the biggest brush you've got basically. And see how you go from there. Then I'm looking at this piece here, and I think I'll just add a little bit more depth of colour of the same colour in here. Just a little streak, and maybe a little streak there. And I'm just going to soften it. Which side am I going to soften it on? I'm going to soften it on this side, just in a nice shape, like so. So I'm painting wet on dry and softening it, so it'll hold the intensity of colour. Now what have I done here? This has got a little bit of shadow colour, so I'm going to just pick up a little brush. This is, I think it's number 3, and I'm just going to define this little wrapped round piece here. I thought it was part of this petal here. Maybe I'll just leave it as part of that petal there. No, I won't. I'll show you how I'll do that. I'll just bring this line through here like this. So this is this little piece on the reference image. It's this little piece here. So I'm going to create a shape into that petal like so. And then, so you can see what I've done there, just on the edges. And then I'm just going to pick that bit up, soften up with a brush that edge, and leave the other edge there. So I'll go away from that now and do something over here, just to let that dry, just in case I've gone across that edge. I don't think I have, but just for safety's sakes we'll do that. So then with the same, and I'm using a little brush because it's just a small space, with the same bit I'm going to come over here and do this bit. So I've got a nice shape there, so I'm just going to redefine that shape. It's just a nice curve, goes in here, and then with the big brush again, wet it, dry it, 1, 2, 3 on the towel, and I'm going to press hard and soften that shape. Then I'll decide whether I soften the other side as well. And maybe I'll just do a couple of little lines out like that. Just gives it a little bit more shape. I'm going to soften that bottom end a little bit more. I'm just looking at what I'm doing here. So this petal comes out there, that comes over the top. So I think I want to actually soften it down there too, just to define the top edge of that petal. Drop in a little bit more colour, like so. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as the picture. This picture's just a guide. No one's ever going to see it later. I'm just going to drop a little bit of water in there just to blur up those edges. So that's this little dark bit here. I've probably done it a little bit brighter than it is in the picture, but again it'll fade. Now this is a little bit drier now, so I'm going to wet my big brush, dry it off really well, and soften the other edge because I don't want a hard line there. It's kind of towards the background, so just catch the edge and that's all, and it'll soften the other side as well. I just wet my brush again. I'm just going out there and softening it again. So that's how you get those nice soft creasy kind of looks that are forms the flower. So then we've got this piece coming over here, and I think we'll just go a little bit tannier, so sort of somewhere in between. And I'm just going to run a little line up here, same thing again on there. It's running out nicely into that colour because it's damp, so I'll just wet that, dry brush, and soften that side too. So these are just suggestions of shapes, things that are happening. Got a lovely glow coming from behind those stamens. We're not going to do anything there. So now this is dry enough now for me to go back in, and let's have a look at the colour again. It's a dull rosy colour. I'll add a little bit more blue to that, which will dull it down a little bit more, and I'm going to add a little bit more water to lighten it. Then I'm going to form this petal, so we want nice edges to those petals, and then to there, it's just a little roundy bit. How far up does that come? Comes up quite a little way. So this is just a second layer. Then I'm going to go take that colour out a bit further, and then in with, so wet the brush, clean water, 1, 2, 3, biggest brush you've got, up to about a 20, and just catch the edge, and you're forming the edge of that petal. And that's all we need to do there. So they're very subtle, the bits that we're doing here. That's forming that, that's forming that. And then we'll come over here and we'll add a little bit more pink. We've got those dull colours that we did in the first layer, but I'll just add a little bit more of this rosy colour into this. Then I'm painting wet on dry with a small brush. I'm just redefining the edge of that petal there. And I'm going to come up in a line there. And quite a strong colour, because it's over a shadow colour. I've probably done that a bit wrong, but never mind. Just creates shapes. Then wet the big brush, dry it, 3 strokes on the towel, and then just catch the edge to the outside. Turn it around so you can go onto the other side. Same thing, just catching the edge to soften it. So the colour's just rolling out of a little crease. Just really careful you don't upset the edge of that bottom petal. And it's just about all on there. Then I'll turn it around this way. And I'm going to use the more tanny kind of colour. Well, it's a more shadowy colour, let's say. And not as strong. It's this colour. And I'm going to go define the edge of this petal where it comes around. I've got my petal not as smooth as this, and I'm quite happy with that. So I'm just going to make it nice and tidy down this edge. And up and little shape there. Again, it doesn't have to be the same. Now that's a little space, so I can't get in there with my big brush. So I'll just go in with a slightly smaller one. This is a 10. And just soften that edge out. So you want to soften it far enough that when the colour can drift wherever it wants to go, but it's not going to form a hard edge when it gets to the other side of the damp. If you haven't got a big enough brush, you do a stroke and then another couple of strokes outside it, and I'm going to come down and just catch the edge of that. I've painted it on wet on dry, so there's not too much paint on the paper, and not too much water on the paper, and so I've just done that bit there. And then I realise I haven't defined the top edge of that same petal, which is quite a rosy colour, and that is what am I doing now? So I've got this here. So we're going to go here, around here, and up. And I realise I've turned that into a different petal. So this petal is actually continuous there, and I've made it a different one. So I'll show you what I'll do to fix that. I don't have to fix it, but if I choose to, I can just go back in. So this petal here, I got a bit heavy-handed here, and I shouldn't have. So I'll just go in with I'll just use my little scrubber brush, which is just this little 1/4 inch. Wet it. I'm just going to take a bit of the water off. I'm not sure how wet this is still, and I'm just going to just stroke that a little bit there, just a little shimmy on the surface, so that it feels as if it's going to keep on going. Just lift a bit of colour off there. If you get a bit of bleeding, don't worry, you can tidy it up later.